Hi, welcome to the creating orthographic images based on photo research for use within the 3D modeling section of the Introduction to Game Asset Creation. So what we're going to be doing with this section is we're going to be covering using research images, so photographic images, and then converting them into orthographic line drawings using Photoshop. We'll be covering actually setting up measuring tools within Photoshop, using the pen tool to draw out the images, and separating images, exporting them for use within Maya. So to begin with, what I want to do is just start off by opening View and click on Rulers. If you want to, you can go through our Introduction to Photoshop tutorial if you are new to Photoshop, and we have a whole series of tutorials based on actually getting you up and running within Photoshop as a basic user. Okay, so once we've done that, we need to make sure we are in centimeters on our rulers, which we are. You may be on inches. I think that is by default will come in inches, so if you are, just make sure you click and go to centimeters. Here you can see we have our traffic cone, which we downloaded. This is like a solid one-piece molded traffic cone, and we can see that it's got quite a thick base, a thin leading edge, clearly goes up at an angle into our base. We have these curved sections as well, and we know it's a six-sided object. I think it is anyway. Let's have a think. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could actually be a seven-sided traffic cone. Again, these things you can make slight alterations based on what you want aesthetically yourself as your asset, but we're going to try and follow this as closely as possible. We can see it's got a slight top piece here, and it's also got a cut-in segment that looks like it appears on both sides. So when we're creating these orthographic images, we might want to make sure we're creating it looking from kind of this line down here, so we actually see these indents in the side. Okay, so once we've got our assets ready, and we already know our dimensions as discussed in the previous video, we're going to create a new document. We're going to be creating this document in centimeters, which may sound a bit odd, and it is a little odd for the general rule for Photoshop documents, but we are making an asset that's actual size. If you're creating something which is quite large, like a truck or a car, you might want to use a kind of like a scaled down version, like a 1 centimeter equals 10 pixels or something similar like that. Again, we'll be covering these in the more advanced tutorials. We'll be creating more advanced orthographic images, but this is just an introduction. Okay, so centimeters width wise, we want to have, I think we'll go for 60 centimeters wide. We know our base is 40 centimeters and the height is 75, so we'll actually go with 90 centimeters tall. We'll click OK. Okay, so that is kind of our dimensions at the moment, and you can see we've got 60 centimeters across there, and we have 0 to 90 at the bottom. So what we can do is we can actually start dragging out guides now. We have 20 centimeters to spare on either side to get to our 40. Sorry, no, 10 on each side. There are 20 centimeters in total. So we can move our guides to roughly the 10 and the 50. Might want to zoom in if it's being a little weird. So there we've just got it at 50.1, but again this is just as a kind of rough guide. So we know this section here is 40, and we can then go down to sort of 85 on here. In fact, if we go down to 80, now we'll go to 85 on this. There's a rough. Okay, so and we go down to 10 centimeters in the top with a new guide. and we know that within here is our dimensions for our traffic cone. So we could start by actually looking at our image again, and we need to work out really sort of out of 75 centimeters what area this starts at here. So we need to kind of look at, probably guessing that this is, brush breaking this down using the guides. So this section here, and obviously we've got this at a slight angle, is possibly about 15 to 20 centimeters up. And again, you might want to get a rule out. The best method for actually doing this is actually going out and finding a real traffic cone, taking your own photographs and actually measuring them, which you may look a bit odd doing, but is always really good practice to kind of get an asset library. And again, looking through our creating your own asset library tutorial will kind of give you a guide as where to start with that. Okay, so we're going to say about 20 centimeters here for this. So we can go back into our image, and we know we're at 85 here, so 75, so 65. Which looks like a little too much, so we might want to just click on our move tool and we'll say, actually, let's go to 15 centimeters, and that's kind of where our base starts. Okay, other little details we need to know really is how wide this section is. We know that this is roughly 40. This actually might be a completely different size traffic cone, but we know that this section here should be roughly between 40. So again, probably sort of 5 to 7.5 centimeters in on each side for where our angle is, and then this is probably about 5 centimeters wide at the top, I would say. So again, we can pop back over in here, and if we say 5 centimeters in from here will take us to 15. 7.5 would take us kind of around this area. Again, just dropping these in as a guide now. So something like that. So we know that this is kind of our base here. We've got to work out again what this angle would be here. I think we are going slightly a little too high with this, even at this section. So we might need to actually move these down and look at kind of what feels right as well as what kind of looks right. So we know we've got 10 and 50 here. So we need to kind of probably think about getting the central line in at around 30. So we know that this is the cap. So we're starting to block out just using our guides, which will be a real help in the long run. Again, this is where this comes to the height. Maybe let's just go back up to 70 for now, because we said that this is actually the base of the traffic cone here, which I think is probably still a little too high. But we now need to look at actually where this peak, the bottom peak is of this curve, and then the top peak of this curve. So going back over. So if we said the smallest section was actually kind of down here somewhere, and the top of the curve was here, we know that that's giving that a very steep angle here. So we definitely know there's something wrong with the height of this. So we might move it down to a manual position, and then we could easily just start actually blocking this in using our marquee tool. We create a layer, and we'll say go to our highest point here, and what we do simply is just go into stroke, and we do kind of probably a 2 pixel stroke. On this. Let's go in with another 2 guides. Now this is a 30, so we want 7550-ish there. and 32.5 on this side, which I think is going to be a little narrow, so let's actually say wider, 34, so 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters for this top bit, which it does go quite narrow. Again, this is just working without the proper dimensions. When we're going to cover the car section, we cover more advanced versions of this, then we can be a bit more precise. So let's go something like that. Okay, we're now going to use the pen tool, and we'll snap on the pen tool on this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point. Just close our circle and we go to stroke path. Make a selection of this, 0 pixels selected, and we go to our stroke again and we stroke this. So this is going to be our guide. So go back down to guides, and let's just clear our guides, and that's kind of what we've got at the moment. So that's roughly the shape, and it's not looking too bad as the actual shape of our cone. But obviously we now need to put some detail in. I'm just going to undo that and bring back our guides. Okay, I'm going to go back to our pen tool. Let's just complete another section here. And we'll just go to stroke again and stroke that. Let's just get rid of that, and we'll just view, and we'll clear guides again, and we can see we're getting sort of a rough shape. I didn't actually add in the line there. I think I did the wrong section. Yep, looks like I did. So let's just go back. Let's make selection there. We'll go back to view again, and we'll just clear guides again. Okay, go and do that. Okay, so yeah, that gives us a pretty good idea of kind of the dimensions of the cone. I think this may be a little high. Undo that, and we'll just have a look at our guide here. Let's just actually move this further down. So we know it's got this kind of curve in it, and again this layer here that we've created is just a guide. What we're going to be doing is naming this blocking guide, and what we'll end up doing is actually adding our curved section on top of this. So we'll work out where our split line is. We're going to create some more guides down here so we know where our section kind of goes in. Again, what we're going to do is keep looking at this this one here, and we'll already see it's a lot narrower than that, the actual section. And how close to the top is it? So some of this might have to be kind of blocked out by hand. We also know it has a section up here that pokes out the top. If some of your dimensions are wrong, what we can actually do is we can just use half of this and duplicate it and flip it over, which again I'll show you in a second. So just as a rough guide, I'm not getting everything accurate 100% at the moment. We can create a section in here. And we go to stroke. Again, the same with this. Again, what we need to do is we need to look at our original image and work out kind of like the lines that this has. Also kind of looks like it goes down at a slight angle as well. So rather than doing it this method with a marquee tool, we might want to come in and actually create our own little marker there and use the pen tool, just clicking on this. And you're just snapping to the guides all the time at the moment. Okay, we now just to move this path selection, so we're just going to click on our path selection tool. I was on the right one in the first place, I think. Maybe not. Now we can get the angle kind of right on this. It's a very similar angle to the outside. Make selection. And if we make sure we actually on the layer, stroke the selection, and what we do now is we actually come in here with the erase tool. That's what I would have been better doing. Let's just undo this. So to undo, make sure you're stepping back, Alt Control and Z. Create a new layer for this. And we'll just restroke that layer again as well. Okay, so now I'm going to select a brush with hardness, and we'll just get rid of these outer lines, and then we go into our blocking guide and we're going to get rid of these interior lines here. Okay, and again looking back at the image, we can see that actually, let's zoom in on this, you can see it's got a bit of the interior cone. It looks like it comes out at an angle. So we're just going to replicate that. By drawing a point at a very similar angle. And again, what we'll do is just go anywhere outside here. So our move tool. Again, it might kind of curve up at the top, but we can't really see what's going on with that. So we'll just make a selection here. So it's really simple drawing, just straight lines mainly. If you're not a confident artist, this shouldn't be much of a task really to do, while you sort of develop your skills over time. Okay, so we've created that shape. What we'll do now is we'll merge these down, right click and just merge together until it all becomes one image. And we have our split line. That we can mask and delete one half of this drawing. If we duplicate the layer, and then we go into transform and we flip vertically. Nope, sorry, flip horizontally even. And then we can snap this across until all the points match. And you can see we actually got a duplicate with, well, where we've only had to do one side, and we should have a reasonably accurate duplicate there. And then what we do is we just merge this one down again. Okay, so if we clear our guides and actually have a look at what we have so far, we have the sort of beginnings of the top of the cone. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to create more detail for this, and we'll either erase areas we don't need, or we'll actually end up redrawing over the whole thing. Okay, but this is just for one half, but obviously we still need to do the top section as well. So in the next video we're going to move on to the next step.